You got the Nugs magazine in the background. I like it.
Yes, I do. It's Emerald Cup and Fat Nugs, the two biggest supporters that I have for everything that I do in the community, and two of them, are ran um, set of women, but the CEOs of the companies are men, and I have to say that I get immense amount of support from the guys in the industry, and I love it. So, got to represent them. But yeah, it's a good team there at Fat Nugs. If you know Dustin.
I don't know Dustin. I've dealt with a couple other people, and they've been great. Always supportive
Oh,
on
okay.
LinkedIn. So I think Casey.
Yeah,
Casey.
Rentera or something. Yeah, I've seen.
Yeah, she's cool. They got a,
Yes, yes, yeah. Great
cool.
team. Super diverse. Yeah, it'd be cool to have like, your guys's their magazines and your guys's deliveries. I like your guys's bags and like how you guys do all that. So,
Thank you.
but to that, let's get started. Welcome,
Yeah.
everybody. We are off to episode 43. It is Super Bowl Sunday. So I'm excited that our guest, doesn't really celebrate that and decided to come on with me today. So, welcome, Scott. It's a pleasure to have you finally on. I've been following you on LinkedIn for a while now. So, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for reaching out. 100%. I'm same thing over here too. I've been following you and just kind of known you from the industry, so through that LinkedIn community, and then I love what you're doing. So happy to chat more,
You.
learn more about you, kind of share what we're doing, and I think there's a lot of mutual benefit there.
Yeah, for sure. To start that, I think a lot of us now in the industry have been sharing a lot of our fitness, a little bit of maybe some experience they had previously as an athlete, whether they played in a university or they did jujitsu. I know I've had the pleasure of having some guests with heavy background in that. So I always like to start off with, what's your background? Is there anything related to fitness that's like a non-negotiable for you? I think for me, it's been part of my life for a really long time, and cannabis has been part of that journey as well. So tell us a little bit how, if cannabis plays in that as well, how that, affects you, or maybe, even what your routine may be like.
Yeah, I mean, fitness is definitely a big instrument for me. When I don't, of course, I try to work out every day. Um, every day of the week, I try to work out. Start my day with a small win. That's a big thing for me.
Nice.
So I think that if I can get up and get going, I think it definitely sets the tone for a really great day. Um, and I think that I think that fitness is crucial. I think that the whole energy level wise, you feel good about yourself. I'm a big proponent of the workout, feel good, look good, feel good type of thing. So I think it's definitely a non-negotiable for me. And I have a little bit of background as a holistic nutritionist as well. For
Ooh,
like from my previous start in cannabis.
nice.
My previous venture. So, yeah, I mean, I think that working out and the wellness side of it too is a big thing for me, and it sets
Yes.
a healthy life. It's just it's a lifestyle too. It's not like I'm just gonna. I think a lot of people are like, I'm just gonna work out for 6 months and get fit and look good. But like I think that you know doing it for that reason is the wrong reason. I think it's more about long-term longevity, strength. And I think it plays a big mind game too. That's where I find the biggest proponent of working out. Honestly, is when you work out, your brain sharper, and it
Mm.
boosts it helps your mind, the confidence, and that goes a long way. So besides the bodily effects, right? Like I think that the mentality aspect it helps because business is such a head game, right? It's such a mental game. Um, so yeah, I think that really helps, right? So I think that and that's why you see like golf too. It's like such a mental game, and you
Mm.
see like the great ones like Tiger Woods. They're you see some golfers that are not really in shape, and some that are, and I think it goes a long way towards um, being mentally tough.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's why I have to ask everybody because I have fallen in love with the personal development industry. A lot of the, entrepreneurs in there share a lot of tips as to what to do, and fitness is huge.
Yeah.
And they're adamant about making sure that they cut out time for that. Time's money, but that's like really crucial to them, how they take care of themselves. I think it's important that if we're going to be entrepreneurs, that we understand like the discipline behind it. And some days we're going to feel like shit. Some days we're going to feel unmotivated. And if the discipline is there, it's pretty much what's going to help us push through. And so, for me, it's important that I stay at the gym, get my hour, 2 hours if I'm lucky, because I got a 2 and a 3 year old, or excuse me, my God, they're growing up. They're 3 and 5. It's hard, but I also have a partner that's equally dedicated to his wellness and fitness, and we both support each other, and that makes things easier. But I think it definitely sharpens our mindset and helps us kind of like navigate as business entrepreneurs, as far as leveraging, negotiating, and just having to grow ourselves in that industry as well. I'm only 38, and so I still feel like I got a lot of room to grow, and I'm always open to learning. And I think that's also crucial that we learn and stay open to. So thank you for
Absolutely.
sharing.
Absolutely.
So I always ask, like, are you seeing a lot of the people that are in the fitness industry that you're around, or maybe in your circle, like you said, that are also consuming pre-workout or post-workout? Because I know me personally, I know you don't smoke as heavy as, we talked about that offline, but I smoke pretty much an eighth of the day, like you said, and pre-workout and post-workout, it's my thing. But are you the same way, and the people around you that are into the fitness world?
Pre-workout. I mean, yes, I don't do pre-workout anymore. It just makes me so jittery and gives me
Oh, you
anxiety.
mean
So,
the actual the actual supplement? I was gonna ask if you also take any
are you
supplements.
talking? So you're talking about? Oh, sorry, I took you literally there. So you're talking about cannabis for pre-workout.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
joke that
I
it's
mean,
my pre-workout, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think that people are definitely building it into their routines. A lot of people not though. I mean, sometimes I think that a lot of people I know are using it more as like a post thing, like at the end of the day,
Recovery,
right? Where
yeah.
they're using it more
Mhm.
of like a decompressor, a way to relax and facilitate and help that relaxation. So yeah, I mean, I don't notice as much as far as like the pre workout goes, but
Yeah.
definitely on the post side, I think that that's definitely a thing that
Yeah.
I see common.
Yeah, give it a shot. I always say the mind to muscle connection is crazy. I drink Celsius every now and again, which is somewhat of a pre-workout, but try to stick to the sugar-free, non-carbonated, try to keep that down. But the mixture of two for me really gives me the extra pump. So to each their own, everybody understands their body, and I think that's what's important. But I do use it pre and post. But you're right, I do hear more the use of cannabis as far as it being a recovery, especially topicals nowadays. I will say Polar Gold extracts is, somebody that has been really kind and provided me with some samples, and they have amazing, amazing product. And I used to not like, because I'm such an OG in smoking flower, that I used to be like, no way, I don't need a topical. Like, that's not going to do much. But now, being almost 40 after two babies, really pushing my heart as far as training weightlifting,
Yeah.
that has been really helpful. And I really do feel like it's changed. So it's exciting to see all the different products coming out in the industry.
Yeah,
Have you always have you always been in New York, and how long has cannabis been part of your life? I mean, Brooklyn's pretty, I'm pretty sure it's been around since you always been in Brooklyn?
no, no.
Oh, okay.
Back and forth because I was in New Mexico for I lived in New Mexico for
Mm.
years, and then I went and I'll talk a little bit more about this, like probably what your next question is going to hit of kind of the backstory of the business. But no, I mean I left New Mexico, then came back, and then lived there for about a year and a half. And Brooklyn is a recent thing over the last few months. So no, it's been a recent thing as we're looking to more move into this area with our business and launch in the New York area. So I think New York's always a place I've wanted to come back to. I think that I've done LA, I've lived a lot of places, Denver, DC, you know, Arizona, New Mexico, like California. So you know what I mean. So I think that it's always been a place I wanted to come back to and thought could be a long term um, settling down place based on I love the vast cultures, the different types of people, and just everything New York has to offer. Whether that be food or entertainment and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And it's so close to Europe too, right? Like you fly 5 hours and 5.5 hours, and you're in London. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that as far as cannabis goes, I've always seen it. I think that growing up on the East Coast, I grew up in Jersey. It was kind of taboo though growing up though. I mean, I didn't really smoke until college. So I didn't really smoke until college when I went to California. So I think overall, I think I marijuana was definitely more prevalent in the West Coast culture for me as far as I saw it. And that's really the first time I opened my eyes when I went to school in LA.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of given, right? California cannabis industry. Okay, well, that's really cool. I mean, did you have roommates that give it to you? What's the backstory? Do you like remember the first time you smoked weed?
Yeah, I mean, no, it was friends in college. Yeah, I mean, I had a friend that I think that California was medical. It was a medical market. So, um, and then it just turned recreational like that year, I think. So, we just had friends that you could just go buy it in California. You were able to just go buy it,
Yeah.
and buy it, consume it legally. So that was really like the first time it opened my eyes to cannabis and stuff like that. So it was just, yeah, it was just started with friends and stuff like that, and just get-togethers and a way to enjoy people and have fun and party. And so I think that's really what my first entrance into cannabis was.
Nice, nice. Good experience, I imagine, since you didn't really steer away from it. Do you
No,
remember
it was
like
good.
smoke?
No. Yeah, I think it was I think I it was it definitely you know, looking back on that time, it's like the first time you ever smoke cannabis, it's like you know what I mean? Like once you get that first high or the first couple highs, like it's like it's never the same after that though. So it's like I feel like you always remember those times. So definitely it was a fun time in my life too, because it was like kind of towards the end of college too, when like things I was kind of just coasting. So
Mhm.
it was like, we were it was more towards the end. So it was like, it was more fun. It was more fun than anything like at that time in my life,
Yeah.
at that part of my college journey. So yeah, I think that it was added to a lot of fun, and we had a good time. Like, how could you not, like, being young in LA, and you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, do you remember, like, what out of, like, a bong? Was it a can? For me,
No,
my first experience was, like, a Smash Coke can, and it was shit.
I
It
always
was
I love
shit.
no, it was blunts. I
Oh,
love
wow.
yeah, no, it was always
What year you must be younger than I am. What year were you in college?
I'm 28, so I was in college from 13 to 17.
Oh, right. Okay. Totally makes sense. Yeah,
So
by then, you're definitely smoking a lot better weed than I was. I graduated high school in
yeah,
2003.
you were on
So,
that you were on that Mexican brickweed.
yeah. Yeah, whatever it was, it burnt the shit out of my throat, and, yeah, I just remember the burn of the throat, but, yeah, I still remember it till today. I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it tasted. I don't know what got me back to it. I think in high school, it was different in high school. And by the time I got in high school, I hung out with a lot of the football players and a lot of the girls that played softball and pretty well off in neighborhood type. So they had all the nice fancy bongs. And that was the first time I got introduced to like all the glass. And after that, now I have like over a dozen bongs of my own. And I'm just a glass person now. And it's
I
less
was
stinky than like joints and stuff like that,
No,
especially if I have them
we're
at the house.
talking bougie California flower. We're talking, legal market, the deal. You know,
Yeah, LA, I bet.
high end blunt wrappers. Like, we're talking about, what I mean, with smoke, you're smoking right. I mean, you're smoking right? I mean, if you're gonna do it, I think that always the good quality is a better way to go. I mean, I think
Yeah,
that was always the thing. So yeah, but again, it was in a time in California where like it was like medical switching over to rec, right? That's kind of
yeah.
when it was. So you have like
Have one of those little cards.
well, yeah, and you have all these like new cool brands coming out, right? Like the flour was just so high quality. I mean, everything was like B plus and above grade flour. So that was like, it was B plus, A minus, like everything you saw was good. I mean, it needed to be good to even for people to want it, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it seems like quality is huge for you as far as quality of life, everything that you do as a business owner and just in your own personal development. So I imagine that is trickling over to your own business. So let's tap into that. Um, Tell us a little bit about what started, your thought process as far as, like, I want to get in the cannabis industry. I imagine you left college or you were already planning college, or maybe that's where the idea got sparked up. Tell us a little bit about, what got you just really passionate about what you do. I see you're pretty heavy in the social media. You're always pumping up your team. You guys are everywhere. I love the vibe that you guys put out aesthetically as your brand. So yeah, tell us a little bit about Priscotty Delivery.
Yeah.
I'm also curious to know what made you go the delivery route licensing than like an actual retail store, just
Oh,
for my
yeah.
own sake.
So I'll tell you. So okay, so I started off in the space. Again, coming from my entrance, I had like enjoying, like that was a great segue into the cannabis and like where it all started, right? Because the enjoyment in college.
Mhm.
When I left college, I always knew I wanted to start my own business, right? Like there was never an option. It was never like, hey, go work for someone else. It was always like, okay, what business are we going to start, right? So just like you just feel it in your soul. It's like you're calling, right? You're like, okay, I'm not here to just like exist. I'm gonna work my ass off, but it's gonna be for myself, and I'm gonna create something bigger than myself, right? And have an impact on people. Um, so I started off. I linked up with a chemist who was making water soluble ingredients for well-renowned beverages. We took the same technology. It was a nano emulsification technology applied to cannabinoids. So we did hemp-derived minor cannabinoids, made products for people both domestically and internationally. A lot of great functional foods and beverages, right? It's great application, high bioavailability, high shelf life. The stability is good. And also really got me interested in how cannabis affects the body, and the isolate, more or less so the isolated cannabinoids and how they affect the body, right, and interact. So went back to school online, just started taking to be a holistic nutritionist to understand that more. Came out with my own line of products as well, did e-com. um, and I think that's what really got me going in this space. It was more on the hemp derived side of minor cannabinoids, and then that really got me the whole aspect of working with other customers, making products for people. Got me, got my feet wet in the more the B2B space in business.
Mhm.
Building relationships, stuff like that. And I think the e-commerce side of the B2B of creating my own products really got me interested into the technical aspect of, building a business, building a product, serving customers as the end consumers, right? It's a little bit different than a B2B to like B2B and B2C is. It's a really different approach, I think. So I think that got me really interested in the tech side, people side. I've always loved creating like brands. I've always been aesthetic, right? With the fashion, with just like how people live. Like, I mean, architecture. My dad's an architect by trade. Just like I've loved cool stuff, the way things look. I think that really has a big impact on, the way people perceive a brand, the brand's value, what it means and what it does for society. So on how it makes people feel, right? And ultimately, I think people are buying something because of how it makes them feel, rather than exactly like buying something for its tangible good sometimes. So I think that's what. So I appreciate you saying that with the look of the business. We know that's a big thing for us. So that's kind of like was more my entrance into cannabis. I've been in the space for like 6-7 years now, and then as more markets were opening up for adult use, right? California, I was in college, kind of opened up for adult use. I was kind of there, and that's kind of when it all started. And then as I saw other markets opening up for adult use, I was kind of at like a pivotal point in my life where it was like I really liked what I was doing. I just didn't feel like it was going to get me to that next level, and where I wanted to be in my success in my career. And it became hard to raise money. I think there was so much products out there, like CBD based products. There was other people making good water soluble ingredients. So it was tough to raise money. And quite frankly, I just did it. It was a learning lesson because it was my first stab in business. It took a while to learn and grow and teach myself and learn from others and people around me, right? To gain that experience. So I kind of realized, it was time to start something new. It was kind of like a pivotal point where it was time to start something new. And then basically I was like, you know what? I appreciate this business for all it's done for me, the experiences, but it's time to move on. And I think that it was just a kind of a realization moment, and kind of like a transformational period for me. Um, and then basically I saw, like, going back to where I started, um, I saw the delivery space. I've never been interested in brick and mortar retail per se. I really like changing things and facilitating growth in society, and creating cool things that transform the way people do things and consume. So I thought retail, I've never been really into retail, right? And I've always been more into technology and the technology side. So
Yeah,
um,
makes sense.
I think that was my interest, and I led into that. I was like, you know what I mean? I think I gained the confidence in the last business, and I kind of led into that for this one. And I saw the need for delivery. I saw what people were doing in California. You know, how the markets, you know, weren't very favorable for delivery. You know, obviously seeing what DoorDash did and Uber Eats did in Silicon Valley, and a lot of those other gig work platforms. So it was kind of a little bit of drawing from that, drawing from my cannabis experience for the last 4 years. You know, what I knew about the California cannabis market, you know, seeing other delivery services have a hard time. You know, I think that's a lot to do with regulations and just the California market as a whole. So as new markets started opening up, I saw a unique way to service these retailers, in almost like, in a way where we could be create our own lane, you know. And that's what interests me, like do something different than the pack, right? Like when a new market opens up, it's all about, okay, retail, manufacturer, you know. But I think that for me, it was like, okay, how can we influence and add value, without the competition, and do something that's different than everyone else and be really good at it. So that's where the delivery aspect came in, right? And then that kind of one thing led to another, and that kind of came. That's kind of where we are at now. You know, there's obviously a lot in between, a lot of struggle and growing and learning and networking. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that's ultimately, kind of what led me, is seeing the opportunity, seeing new states open up, and assessing the market as an entrepreneur on like what I feel like where I could make the biggest impact.
That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I think you touched on big things, value and impact. I always say, you know, I want to be an asset to our community, to our industry, and not a liability. I want to bring value to people as organically as possible. And I think you do that. Everything that you just said, you know, you're kind of touching back on how you are as a person, how you are visually, how you're into fashion, and that's trickling over into your brand, and you caring how you guys look aesthetically as much as caring how you guys impact and bring value to the community. So I love everything that you're doing and how you're tying it all together. You know, I think it's amazing to see a team also be equally as happy as the owner. I see that through the post and everybody, you know, repping your guys' merch. So I do have some questions to, you know, back of your story. I guess it's, you know, why you're in New Mexico right now, as far as where you guys have fully developed, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
we launched in New Mexico. Yeah, our first market was in New Mexico, in Albuquerque.
Okay, was that a strategic decision because, you know, California market is flooded? Tell us a little bit about, I don't know if you actually went to, I should have probably asked this, if your degree, you know, in college, which you went to college for, but maybe that was part of your strategic move as far as why you went that way. And then now starting to touch into the markets that are ready to rock, like New York and New Jersey.
Well, yeah, I think New Mexico is a little bit of a strategic play, in a sense that, I think we saw an opportunity in a new market, and to service those people there in New Mexico, a place like, you know, which I formerly lived and then went back to. So I think that the East Coast markets, when we were looking at launching Priscotty, we were looking at which market was going to be the best to launch in, right? And then we were looking at the regulations, what can fit our model the best, right? Because, you know, we're a technology based company, that provides the service to customers. We don't house inventory. You know, we integrate with POS systems, e-commerce, whatnot, right? So we don't carry a retail license. So, you know, we had to choose the proper state for us where we could really feel like we can make that work. So I think that New Mexico, I think New Jersey and New York were really taking a long time to roll out. So we were like, okay, where can we go? You know, and then we started looking at New Mexico. We're like, okay, like let's you know, go to a place where we could make a big impact, showcase what we have, like prove the business model, and then gain attention for, bigger investors to help prove the model and scale that, show the value it can bring. Build our confidence in ourselves, learn from our mistakes, and on more of a smaller scale, and then take that to a higher growth market. But the one thing too that's really cool about New Mexico, more than just that, is that I thought it was really cool too to take it to a market where New Mexico traditionally is known as the land of entrapment, right? The state's motto is it's the land of enchantment, but the people there say, okay, it's the land of entrapment, because the idea is that, there's not much opportunity in New Mexico. And people feel like it's always a struggle making it out, right? Where they're from. And New Mexico is one of the poorest states in the union when you look at the data. So there aren't a lot of, like, when you look at it, there's not a lot of tech companies, there's not a lot of startups that start in New Mexico and then move into other states, right? That's not like the first place you would think of like a startup coming from. So I thought it was cool to just flip the script and show people too that you could do it from anywhere, right? Like, to really showcase that and kind of light New Mexico up in a way where it's like, again, you can make it from anywhere. If you have passion, persistence, you have an idea, you're driven, like you can make it from anywhere. So I think that was a little bit too, it was just the perfect spot of allowing for that to happen. So yeah, I mean, and that's kind of what it's kind of led us to where we are now. So I think that's a little bit more of like why we chose New Mexico. It was, again, the monetary reasons, and then taking it back, I think that it was just a cool place. It was a cool story. And then I feel like it set us up to have a great impact on the community, and, shed light onto a place that's really not known too much and doesn't get as much attention, especially in the cannabis community. Right. So, you know what I mean? Like, not too many people know about the cannabis market in New Mexico. There's not very many MSOs there. I think Vario pulled out, things like that. You have Schwaz from Colorado, but, so yeah, I mean, I think that, that's what we were trying to accomplish.
That's really cool. I think, reaching out, taking the plant, I should say, to a different state, or a state that's not so populated or overpopulated about it, and kind of growing its reach there. I imagine there's, a lot of roots heavily in that area that resonate with the herbal medicine as well. So
Yeah.
hopefully you guys are, doing very well. But I think it's also a safe mood, for it to be the first place to launch something. It's not too, flooded the market, like you said. You're not, pushing against, like, LA here. You have a store. I I mean, a store on every corner. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. I just had somebody on that kind of discusses and helps other retailers strategize how to operate, how to expand. And it's almost impossible the way they do licensing here in California, especially in Los Angeles County, because, it could be store after store after store. And as you know, it's going to be impossible to actually serve or grow when the market is just flooded with the same thing. And then on top of that, everybody's just getting taxed beyond what should be actually legal. But that's a different story. So there is something that you mentioned that I would like you to touch on, if you don't mind, and that's
Yes.
investors and getting funding. I seems like you may be more familiar with that. Me, as being one, honestly, like, being a woman, that's very intimidating. Getting ready to pitch. I've gone to a couple conferences, investment conferences, where I'm more of like a media person. So I've gotten an opportunity to be around it, seen a couple people pitch. It's very intimidating. Tell us a little bit about your experience, and if that's something that you had to do, to get things rolling for you guys.
Yeah. So, you know, where do I start on this? Yeah, no, I think that I've had great mentors around me. I've had some really good people coming from the tech space in California and Silicon Valley, private equity people, that are just, super, super seasoned in business, that have been around. So it's made it so much easier. But I think the core of getting an investment is building relationships, with people, and building that trust. So I think that is a big thing. It's not as scary. I think that when you feel like, I think for me, like when you feel like you're doing something to add value,
Yeah.
I think it takes away that scary part because you really believe in what you're doing, right? So
Mhm.
it's I look at it as like a crucial step to, getting to that next level and growing. And I think that people look at getting getting investors is always a scary thing. But yeah, I mean, when you break it down, like investors are just people like us, right? They have money, they control a fund or whatever that might be, right? From wherever the money's from, like LPs or other people, family office, whatever it might be. And, their job is to find, the best opportunities, and the best entrepreneurs that they feel could maximize that value, right? For their stakeholders. So, but going back, I mean, cannabis is just super tough right now as far as funding goes, because I feel like from what we've seen, we have a lot of investors that got burned, 4 or 5 years ago when cannabis really started to roll out legally in a lot of states, and especially in the Western states like California, and
Mhm.
Colorado. So you have like the early adopters, and they haven't really quite seen the return, that they thought, and it's been a lot
Mhm.
harder than they thought, and they haven't necessarily gotten an acquisition from a company, as I think that people expected it to go federally legal a lot sooner and be federally legal now at this time, right? So people thought other companies would come in, brands, tech, and there would be those acquisitions that haven't happened yet. So I think you're at this standstill with money wise and investment in this space. So I think it's been harder than ever. And then pile on like the issues that are going on in California with the tech companies, and then just the chaos going all around the world right now, and just making people hold on to their money more. Interest rates are not favorable, right? So I think that that's something that we're seeing, is that, like, let alone investment as a whole is hard as ever. I think the
Yeah.
cannabis too, it takes it down and it magnifies that because of the federal status, and I think the issues that a lot of investors have faced with their first investments on their first or second fund. And then something too right now, we've taken on friends and family money. That's how we've been funded so far, right? So we haven't
Right.
had a big investment to date. That's something that we're looking for, right, to expand.
Mhm.
And that's kind of, that was the goal of New Mexico, is to prove the unit economics, so an investor can come in and say, hey, look, they have these unit economics. This is how much money they're making per transaction. Now they can go do this in 4 or 5 states. This is how much money we can make, right?
Nice.
We put those dollars
Mhm.
behind them, and then this is the value that can be created from that. So that was our goal when launching the business and the proof of concept. But again, I think that a lot of investors have seen what was happening in cannabis. I think specifically, even more specific on the delivery front, they've seen issues that companies like Ease, Amuse, Grassdoor just shut down, have faced in California. So I think that's made people a lot more hesitant on the delivery front, and even made people think that, hey, look, delivery doesn't make money, right? Like, we've heard that a couple times. And, but when you break down, I think that if you have a model that works, I think that it's about finding that and finding the right investors that believe in you and see the value. And again, everyone too is so focused on the retail. Everyone's kind of chasing the hot thing as store
Mhm.
as new markets opening up. They're looking for retail, manufacturing, which to me is another commodity, right? So it's tough to differentiate yourself, and that's what I found very hard, creating products for people in the hemp space with CBD based, cannabinoid based ingredients.
Mhm.
It's very hard to differentiate yourself and find that value prop. And building a brand costs a lot of money, right? So it's tough to break through the noise, because there's so many brands out there today, and it's never been easier to just come out with a brand. It's never been easier with all this innovation that's come out. It's so I think that with Priscotty, we were trying to do something different, and we were trying to do something that was, um, differentiationable. Like, we were able to differentiate from other people, and provide that value in a place that was traditionally known as hard, and other companies might have failed. So, and I think that again, with that, I think that there's obviously the trouble it brings, and it's hard to raise money. So I think that those are just some issues and things we've seen, and that's kind of what we've been through as a company, right?
Yeah.
But keep moving forward. So I mean, we don't let that stop us, and we're
Mhm.
persistent, and we continue to build relationships. And I personally believe at the right time it will happen. we'll get the right people too, because you don't want the wrong investors too. So like as that's a big thing too, is everyone just thinks it's like, oh, we'll get this investment, but like, you gotta deal with those people for 3 to 5, 6, 7 years. So it's like if you don't vibe with them or you're not a good alignment, it's just as much an interview for you to them as it is for them to you, right? Like it has to fit. So I think it's not worth rushing. But yeah, I think that when you break it down at its core, it's how can we add value? How it's like any relationship, right? It's like same thing with investors. It's like how can we both add value to each other, and facilitate growth and help each other achieve our goals. So when you look at it like that, it's not as scary.
Yeah, for sure. I'm wearing an acquisition hat. I don't know if you recognize who normally wears that hat. If you follow Alex Harmozy or the Harmozys, it's his wife and Alex and Layla Harmozy, but they're huge in the fitness industry. They're known for flipping gyms, and now, they're very huge in investing and, dealing with a lot of private equity brands or companies, I should say, and organizations. And, from my personal experience, I know of private equity companies. And, I come from banking. And so a lot of my previous lifetime work was dealing with compliance and BSA of onboarding a lot of private equity companies. But coming from an entrepreneur side, I've left the banking world now. It's always, for me, it's so like, okay, it's trust. It's always about trust, especially me having a banking background, coming from cannabis. Trust is so huge. So like you said, I think, building the relationship is key. And so you gave a lot of insight on that. And so I appreciate that.
Well, yeah, and I think too that I think this is like, one thing that I think is crucial, going back to the trust factor. And I think that's honestly, that's one mistake that I've made as an entrepreneur, right? Like I'll just lay it out there. It's like being too persistent in that end and not focusing on building the relationship, right? Because at the end of the day, we're an early stage company. Investors are investing in me as an entrepreneur. Like they're not investing in these projections, right? I'm not getting a loan from a bank, right? Like they're investing as me, an entrepreneur. Do I trust this guy with my money? Like for who he is, what he stands for? Do I trust this guy with my money? And when shit gets tough, do I trust him as a person and as an entrepreneur to push through and get to the other side, right? And make that happen. Like they're literally betting on a horse, right? So it's like, do I trust this with my money, this hard-earned money that is taking me so hard to raise or to make myself, right? So it's like, I think that the trust factor is a huge thing. And that's one mistake we've made, is just being too blunt with it. And I think that just comes with experience and failure. And you gotta fail to learn. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I'm constantly failing at, different things in my business, and constantly reevaluating and learning and, and doing it quickly. So that's the key, is make your mistakes, make them fast. And, I think that just keep moving forward, right? Don't let it bring you down. So that's definitely something as a new entrepreneur, as growing, is tough for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, that's fair. Everybody's got the challenges within their own business, and it's all a challenge in the cannabis industry. And so not being felt so run down or being discouraged, I think is huge. But for the most part, I think the cannabis heart keeps us light spirited and like just keeping moving forward. Like you said, it's not a lucrative thing. And I think a lot of people who truly have a good intention behind it is really going to survive the market right now, because I know it's going to flush out a lot of people that were in it for the wrong reasons, or they just got tired of putting in the work, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more on that. Like I think everyone looks at it as cannabis opens up as fast cash, right? And it's not that at all. And that from being in California, it's not fast cash. It's a grind. It's a street fight, right? Like it's a grind every day. And it takes persistence, it takes grit, it takes hard work. Like when we started Priscotty, like when I went back to Albuquerque, like I was literally driving the product around, like making the deliveries for the first 4 or 5 months of the business, like to really understand the consumer, understand the technology that these dispensaries are using. Like how can we integrate better? How can we make this more sound operationally? Like I spent that time, those 5 months, driving and working my ass off, right? And to get to where we are now and building those relationships. So it's like you can't be afraid to get in the trenches and do those things, right? And then I was like driving Uber at night because the investor money we did have, I didn't want to spend it on living. So I was driving Uber, like working, a 15-hour, 16-hour day, and then driving Uber at night to just, keep myself afloat. So you know what I mean? So I didn't burn through money, just so we can have that longevity. So that's it's a grind, but that's anything in life. If you want anything good, I think that it takes hard work.
Yeah, exactly that. And to that point, what is your stance on the buzz with federal schedules changing from either deschedule? I mean, obviously, we know that it's probably going to move towards rescheduling. Me being part of the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, I hear both ends. From the legacy side, I hear more of the descheduling. On the corporate side, I'm hearing more of let's just run with rescheduling and let's just take this as a baby win, more of like a macro or micro win. As we all know that obviously we would like hopefully for it to be descheduled, but everybody has such a different view on it. Where do you stand?
I think that I mean, I think that I think the biggest issue for us and our dispensary partners. I mean, do you want the selfish answer as me as a business owner, or do you want? No, I'm kidding. But like, I think I have a different opinion as me as a business owner, right? Because it's like if it was
That's a good
completely
point.
if it was completely legalized, you'd probably have DoorDash and Uber Eats coming in trying to fight me, and that obviously wouldn't be good for Priscotty, right?
Yeah.
And wouldn't allow us the time to grow, because I think that one thing we do have that cannabis does offer that opportunity is because it's such a state by state game, and I think that there is no silver bullet, and it kind of provides that room for entrepreneurs to grow. So as an entrepreneur, I think too that federal legalization will allow more money to come in, but it will allow a lot more bigger players to come in too. So you won't have that opportunity for someone like me to come in and just be able to grow and gain that early traction. So I think it could make it so much more tough. So as far as like as a business owner, I think the rescheduling is good because it kind of still provides that buffer room, but it gets rid of the 280E. And then I think that it will help a lot on the tax burden, obviously, of for 280E for running a business, not only being able to write off your cost of goods sold. So I think that would help a lot of businesses survive. But I really do feel like the status of it being federally illegal provides the room for growth for entrepreneurs. I really do. Again, I wouldn't have this opportunity if it was legal. So I mean
Yeah.
that from that perspective, it provides room for growth. It provides that safe haven.
Yeah, for me, it's hoping for the best. I don't, have product. I don't run. I'm not, don't have a license that I will jeopardize or have to deal with. The other thing that I'm hearing as well when this passes is how this will affect trademarks, how this will affect websites, packaging, and all of that. On the chamber, we recently covered this. We had a couple experts come on that are on the board of a national roundtable, but they feel that that's like so far from even being impact. Any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, as far as trademarks go, I mean, I think right now it's obviously tough to get trademarks to protect your brand. So I think it would definitely give more protection on that sense. I think as far as what are you referring to as far as the packaging go? I think on the trademark side, it will definitely be able to allow people to protect their brand. I would love to see people be allowed to advertise on Instagram and not get shut down on Facebook. I think that would be a huge thing, right? So you spend all this time with these businesses building these brands, and then your stuff gets shut down. Like it's the worst feeling. It's disheartening.
Yeah,
So
for
yeah, I mean,
flour.
I would love to see that. But as far as the packaging go, what specifically are you referring to?
So not me specifically, just there's buzz around it affecting, people's businesses as far as trademarks, bankruptcy may be something people are looking at just because they think, okay, well now if we're going to be, from rescheduling it, then it opens different doors is I guess the idea. But from my perspective, I am a podcaster, so it doesn't affect me really. Eventually down the line, I will like to have a product maybe, and so I just trying to understand and bring it to the audience's um, understanding or education and help them understand how this is affecting the community overall. So I'm
So
always asking, I guess, their
I
thoughts.
I actually, thank you for the clarification there. I think it definitely will have an impact, right? So like for instance, like a lot of these strains, they're named after movie characters, right? Like you have like Skywalker OG, right? Like that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. I
True.
mean, you have a lot of these strains and brands named after product names after Disney, after, uh, bigger, bigger corporations and different things, right? Like Oreo this, Oreo that. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I think it could have an impact on the industry as a whole. So when you have that
Mhm.
federal legalization, it's going to feel more like a business in a sense, rather than you have this opportunity to kind of that provides cannabis to be so cool and unique and opportunistic and fun and segmented off from other industries, right? Like that's part of the
Yeah.
fun of being in this industry because of that. So I think you're gonna have those issues 100%. You're gonna have, yeah, it's gonna change things as well. And as far as the bankruptcy laws, yeah, I mean, there's definitely that protection as far as bankruptcy goes and
Yeah,
different
the
things like
SAFE Act.
that
Yeah, I think
that
that's what that they're hoping for is the deschedule will move the Safe Banking Act
yeah,
forward, coming from corporate banking. Right now there's, uh, categories that we would put people that are interested in opening businesses as far as special categories, sanctions, things like that. Even if you were a CBD company, I mean, you will have to jump through an immense amount of compliance and BSA, KYC specifically because you're touching, it's their codes that we put the businesses under as far as your SEC codes. And for that, there is no way, the cannabis industry, until this is fully either rescheduled or descheduled, the banks aren't even close to looking at this right now. And so I think we're so far away from this, even though people are getting excited about it. I will say that there's a lot of smaller, independent banks, I would say, like credit unions that I'm seeing trying to figure this out.
yeah,
So it's always interesting to me coming from an OG as far as being in the cannabis industry, being an advocate and, being around the plant for a really long time, but also my entire resume is built on corporate banking. So I see the two ends and I don't see the bright light at the end. And I think also to descheduling, my concern is that, with the attorney that came on the chamber virtual show that we had, right now, I think there's a lot of people that get concerned that big pharma is going to come in and swipe a lot of us out. And their argument to that is that's not even the case, that they can basically build out anything that they want because of obviously the funding that they have, but to not worry that they're not going to be going around kind of taking everybody's crops and so forth. I find that really hard to believe. One, for, these farmers that have been around for generations have really like focused in on certain phenos and strains and terpene profiles that if you are going to be like a big farmer, I would hope that they're going to need to have access to that. And if they're not willing to work together, then I think that's where some of the concern is coming in from both ends. So I'm just hoping the best at the end of the day. For me, honestly, the government, it's really hard to trust where things are going as far as where cannabis will lie.
yeah.
Because one, we're in a time right now that it's, election time, and a lot of parties are using, the cannabis industry right now to gain the wins, and that's really grossing me out personally. But I am seeing a lot of people that cover media who are open about talking about community and really understanding legislative things so that we're not, like joked around with what's really being brought to the table, because at the end of the day, we were promised a lot of people getting expungements and this not being the case, and that never happened, and now we're having new promises come out. So
Going to be, I think that if it was completely federally legalized, there would be big change. There would be changes, right, for the good and for the bad. I think that you'd get both, right? Like I think that there would be, it would be tougher to be an entrepreneur in the space and start a business, but I also think that there would be more access. So it'd be like a give and a take. So I think that, yeah, I mean, I guess we have to see where really things lie, and what happens and what route they choose to go, and
mhm.
um, but I definitely think they will change the industry and the way it feels as an industry. and the culture that's around it that you and everyone loves, and the different events you go to and that stuff. Like, I think it definitely will change it, and that feel of it. So I think that the dynamic will change. Again, people will get acquisitions, and it will change the way who's servicing the industry. So for the good or for the bad, I think that you definitely will see that. Into how much bigger companies work with smaller companies, like you mentioned, the terpene profile example and the strain example. I don't know on that. I don't really have an opinion on that, or what would happen based on that. But I definitely think there would be change, and some that people like and some that people don't, and depends on where you sit in the value chain. It could change that. So that it would definitely look different. The dynamic would be different.
That's fair. That's for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, I
I
just hope for the best, and that we don't forget about the people who have gone through, fucking hell to continue to grow herb for us. For me, I've always lived in SoCal, and so to hear the stories that come out of Emerald Triangle is crazy. I've always been privileged. Yeah, I'd pick up weed from Malibu and bring it down. That's as far as I've ever had to experience any issues with cops or anything like that. But what they've experienced as far as like farmers, it's sad. And then when they're up against something like this, I hear their concerns, and that's why I'm always curious to ask people that aren't from there but are in the cannabis industry if they're aware of their aches and pains and what they're saying from their end. But yeah, I think it's we're hoping for the best at the end of the day, and that we don't forget about the heart of the culture.
Yeah, and that's what I worry is that makes cannabis so special, the industry as a whole, like how it will change the heart of the culture, right? Like
Mhm.
with that, for sure. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's a big thing. That's still unknown.
Yeah. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and we'll hope for the best. And like you said, as long as you as Scott, me as Casey are out here really trying to be, valuable to our community and have a good impact and really uplift our as a whole, I think, hopefully we are going to stay within the flow of things wherever it may go. To that point, do you have any events you're going to be going to? Anything that you're going to be sponsoring? I know there's, the year's barely picking up. Hall of Flowers is coming. Emerald Cup is coming. A few different things. Anything you guys got popping? I know you're in New York, so maybe there are things going on over there, or maybe New Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely things. We're going to be launching an app here soon, so looking to really push that and have an app launches events for that. But yeah, as far as sponsoring things, I think that events wise, I think we're so dialed in on kind of the markets that we're going into, and kind of have a clear picture of what we're trying to what we're trying to accomplish. So as far as like going to events, I don't really have anything off the top of my head. I think that there's definitely people and events like Off the Revel and different things like that in New York that we want to start getting more involved with. So I think you can look from that. Look into expect that from us this year.
Very cool. All right. Well, you guys heard it there. We'll make sure all of Scott's information and the deliveries website is on our link in the description. But before we let him go, start at Super Bowl weekend, we are going to do rapid fire. I don't know if you've catched it before on previous episodes with some of my guests, but it's just rapid fire questions around the cannabis culture.
Let's do it.
All right. And lastly, I do thank you again for sharing your story, your experience, your insight. We're looking forward to making sure that everybody here knows where to follow you and make sure that if they're interested in your service, that they know where to get you.
Thank you so much.
Of course. All right. Some old school questions. Grinders or fingers?
Fingers.
That is definitely old school. I used to say that till I had my second baby. And I don't have time to be grinding it with my fingers. Dispensary or plug?
Dispensary.
You kind of have to answer that one that way.
That's my political answer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had a few guests that are like, "Oh, I gotta answer it this way." I'm like, "Good for you. You remembered." Floral.
Priscotty. I get it delivered through Priscotty.
There you go. Floral or gasoline terps?
Gasoline.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I will say there's some floral out there that I cannot deny. Like, I don't know if you've had a chance ever to get white Thorn Rose out of Huckleberry Hill Farms. But my God, the profile on that, it's like it's just not it's unexplainable. I
Yeah.
will I will send you the name and information because if you're carrying product, that product right there, it's award winning every time, whether it's collabed in an infused pre-roll, whether it's hash, whether alone as rosin, but the flower itself, it's just so fresh. It's amazing. The taste on there will just leave your mouth like completely watered. Bong tokes or
Absolutely.
joints?
What?
Bong tokes or joints?
Joints, but blunts. Joints don't. I mean, joints don't smoke that well unless they have a nice tip and it's wrapped nice. So, a glass tip joint, I'll take that.
You'd be surprised. I am an Emerald Cup judge. I'm back on this year for the third time. I'm excited to share all the entries because last year we got over 50 entries, and I tend to do like little clips so that you guys are able to see what's coming in. But yeah, it's interesting what comes in nowadays because joints or pre-rolls have just elevated their game. Like the brands that have decided to focus on that, like you said, the glass tip, like a hash hole, nicely rolled, great flour, great rosin all the way in and out. And then it smokes nicely with no runs or
Yeah,
any like that's
that's
just the best.
that's the biggest complaint I think I have with joints is just the runs in different ways. Sometimes you can't even smoke them. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I guess there's techniques to it. If there's like a nug that was left or like something that wasn't fully like grinded out, that's to the ratio of all the flour, especially if they're like infused, that can cause that. But I also heard that paper does that. Certain papers will have more of increase in rate runs than other ones, which is interesting. But I think you're going to answer my next question since the next one is papers or leaves.
leaves. They smoke better.
Yeah. Have you ever had a banana leaf blunt?
No.
Oh, you should try it. It kind of disintegrates towards the end. I guess it just depends who you get it from, but because I'm Filipino and El Salvadorian, we use it for cooking purposes. I thought it was really nifty when I got one. That was a canna cigar, which is basically a cigar but
Oh, I think
cannabis.
I've had Canagar, so maybe they used them in that. I don't know. Maybe I have
Yeah,
this. Never even realized.
yeah, and so I had, actually got to know that brand a little bit and asked them their process in it, and it's amazing because they're thinner, and so when they burn, they actually have to, like, process them and, like, layer them several different times before they can actually make the ideal idea of the blunt, but very interesting, and the flavor was really fresh, so if you ever get a chance to try banana leaf, check it out. Live resin or rosin?
Rosin.
All right, you know your shit. Yeah, if you're bougie.
You
I
do
would say,
rosin.
yeah, I had a guest that was like, "But on a pinch resin." I was like, "That is classic." I didn't put that on a fucking shirt.
Yeah,
Um,
I think especially I don't. I'm not a big hash hole fan when I smoke. I don't. I just smoke. If I'm gonna smoke, I just do flower. But
flour.
if you do
Yeah.
like a vape, like yeah, rosin all the time. I think there's no question. And the distillate's not even a question.
Yeah, the flavors are nuts. But yeah, there's some good resin out there that I've had.
But there's some good
Last
products.
yeah, for sure.
Bloom makes a good one. Bloom has a good
Oh,
resin
yeah,
product for
I've had
sure.
that one too. Let's see. All right, last one. Cheech and Chong or half baked?
Half baked.
I was like, "You're 28, you gotta pick half baked."
Yeah.
All right,
Was
so
a little before my time.
yeah, they're still, I know they're like very much part of our culture and built it out, but I am definitely a half-baked type of person, I would say, just more on the goofy end. And honestly, I love Dave Chappelle, and so can't go wrong with half-baked. Complete classic. All right. I appreciate you and everything that you shared today. We will make sure that all of the links to your website and where to find you will be in the description. Any last words before we get out of here?
No, I mean, just whatever you're doing, just be persistent, right? Like, don't feel bad for being persistent. I think that's the key. No matter what it is, right? Like and that goes for everything, for any industry too, not just cannabis too. So keep being persistent for what you want. Don't be scared of the fear of failure. Don't let that stop you from getting going, and just keep moving forward. You'll get to where you need to be. And you'll get, just keep putting one foot in front of the other, no matter how scary it gets. I think that's the key.
Yep. Love that. I completely agree. All right, guys. I appreciate you guys coming in today. If you guys have any questions, jump in the comments, shoot us an email. We appreciate you guys tuning in to our podcast. Until the next one, peace.